What's up, everybody? Just checking in. I'm not sure if the stream has begun or not. I'll let everybody know in the chat room as well. I gotta find the URL. 1 second. It was. Ha! I'm looking at myself on YouTube. What? I fell down the Matrix show. I'm looking at myself on YouTube. What? I fell down the Matrix show. Where is it? I've never seen it. Oh, I think on YouTube.
I just say like a little, give the speaker on
Okay, well, I'm not sure if anybody's actually watching or not, but hey, thanks so much for having us to the Bitcoin Cash Fund. You guys are awesome as always. So we are just set up here in San Francisco in the financial district. We've got 5 or 6 people who showed up. We've been networking and hacking and brainstorming, and it's been a really good time so far. Lots of progress. Oh, I do see some people weighing in over here. What's up, y'all? Let me see who we got. We got Stand Up PDX. What up? Dr. D. Oh, I do see some people weighing in over here. What's up, y'all? Yo, yo, yo. Alfredo. See who we got. We got Eric. So, okay, yeah, so basically we're just going to do this casual and let this thing run. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask them. Let me mute my machine. So basically we're just going to do this casual and let this thing run. All right, I'm going to scan this around in there. Anybody, you guys ready? We're good? Yeah. All right, here we go. This is the crew.
What's up, Bitcoin Cash World?
That's right.
Oh, it's a little delayed, so.
Oh, it is. You'll see yourself in a second.
All right.
Did I miss it? I got it. Oh, there it is. Awesome.
It's really delayed. Oh, yeah, there it is.
All right, you guys. All right.
There. Got you. Yeah, log in right now. It's the first time I've seen Team City rewind it.
All right, anybody got any questions? Hit me with the questions. What do you guys want to know? Want to see what we've been doing? Eric Lima, is this going to be a 2-hour stream? You know, I think in theory it is going to be a 2-hour stream. It's super casual. We're still trying to figure this out. This is the first time we've done it. I expected that this time would be mostly about networking and inspiring and helping people set up their development environments, etc. So yeah, I think it's been pretty casual. And I built a few things myself I can demo. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or hack on anything. I can point the camera at the room. I can do whatever you guys want. It's super casual at this point. What have we been talking about today? That's a good question. So obviously everybody who showed up today is based out of the Bay Area, and there's some super smart and inspiring people here. So we were just talking about what are the best way to do things like this more often, maybe have some type of community working place where blockchain people can work and companies can maybe share resources, or people can drop by with resources or ideas, inspiration, etc. So we talked about that. And then we talked about, obviously, the upcoming upgrade. I think that everybody's talking about that. Lots to do there and lots to look forward to. And obviously, we talked about BitBox and what the vision is for BitBox and where it's headed in the next 3, 6 months, 12 months, and beyond. And we talked about Bitcoin Cash and just how obvious it is that the world does, in fact, want Bitcoin Cash. The world does want cheap, borderless transactions. It's obvious that all that happened with the drama and the fork, it just pushed it back. That's it. And we're seeing everything move at light speed now. And we talked about how great the Bitcoin Cash Fund is and how awesome their Discord is. And then, of course, we did some hacking. Yeah, I can describe some of the things that we worked on. So as I mentioned, I expected this time would be mostly about on-ramping everybody. Hold on, I think somebody's about to leave. 1 second. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Really.
Yeah.
See you again.
No, thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, of course. We'll see you again for sure. Awesome. Cheers. Sorry about that. Somebody was heading out. Thank you, Morello. As I mentioned, I figured today would be super casual, and sure enough, it was, and that's good because, there's a genuine grassroots development movement happening in the Bitcoin Cash space, and it's nascent and it's just a germ, but it's spreading. And this thing was just about networking and finding the people, and I think that in that regard, it was 100% a success from my perspective, no question about it. I did, in fact, build a few things. I can demo them now. It might seem a bit rushed. We were going to demo at 7, but like I said, this is so casual, it doesn't really matter much. So I can show it to you now. So, hey, what's up? Hey, dude, what's up? Time zones. Shouldn't you be asleep? What's going on with you? Up late? Up early? So one of the problems we have is that Bitcoin D doesn't really have any awareness of cores. So if you have a single page app like Angular or React and you try and post to it, you will get a cores error. And that is incredibly annoying, and we were struggling with it building up to this meetup. So yesterday or the day before, we released 0.7.3, which has the BitBox proxy command, which just fires up a little localhost proxy. And it's on localhost 1337, and then if you enable that, your single-page app will post to your local machine, and then it will post to the blockchain, and that's a sufficient solution for development. So just a little heads up on that before you view this web page. When you view this web page, the commands are going to fail for you unless you're running BitBox proxy, because I don't yet have cores enabled on the server. So just a little preface there. So the first thing so a little heads up. I'm not sure where I should share links. I'm going to share them in the Discord because that's the home of this crew. So the backstory behind the first thing that I created is, while I've been developing BitBox, I've used this website like 10,000 times to decode raw transactions from a GUI. It's incredibly helpful, even though you can decode raw transactions from the command line and from a script with BitBox. It's just nice to have a web GUI. You can paste something in and hit a button, and it shows you some output. So I've used that website. I just pasted into the Discord channel the chain query Bitcoin API like a lot, but it's the BTC chain. So it works in the context of decoding a raw transaction, but it's not geared up towards Bitcoin Cash. So I built, with Eric's help, little shout out to Eric, he helped. We built query.cache, and I will paste that URL. You can go to it yourself, literally query.cache. And like I mentioned, unless you're running BitBox proxy on your local machine, you're going to get a CORS error as well. If you have BitBox proxy fired up and that'll work, we'll have this CORS problem solved soon, and there's actually a little bit on that in a second. But ultimately, this is just going to be exactly what it says. It's a nice, clean little web GUI that people can play around with the JSON RPC of Bitcoin Cash. And I think this is cool to help on-ramp people. I think it's fun to, from a developer perspective, it's incredibly useful to have a web GUI. I'm telling you, it's a lot quicker than having to type it in and do everything from the command line. And if you guys don't know, there's a link to our Discord channel on the right. Sorry, I should post the links here as well. I apologize. So that's one thing I built. And something to note about that is I started work on that maybe 2 nights ago. So I put in about a day of work on that. Eric helped me some as well. But we used the Bootstrap React scaffold to create a React app. So BitBox has what are called scaffolds. So you can say BitBox scaffold React, and it will clone this basic React app we have. And it's got BitBox integration with the little basic BIP44 wallet, and you can start there. We also have the same thing in Angular Next.js, which is like server-side rendered React. And then we also have it in Node.js, so just like a command line tool. And all of them do the same thing. They're a basic app which launches a BIP44 wallet. So my point being, we started Query Cache with that. So we ran a single command, and out of the box we got a working React app that had BitBox integration. And then we, I have a bunch of full nodes set up. I run 6 different full nodes. So we plugged in the credentials for a full node. And then we created one component that just started going through all the different API calls and posting them out. I mean, that's basically the flow, but it took us about 1 day. The high level there is that that app took about 1 day between 2 developers, and it's got some good utility, just to give you a sense of how fast you can bootstrap something. So it says, what's the pipeline for future BitBox development? From the amazing Eric Lima. What's up, man? So right now we have 3 sort of things happening. BitBox is going to be continued to be developed as the suite of tools that it is right now, which it consists of a command line utility. It consists of a JavaScript API for client and server applications, and it consists of a GUI. So we have that continuing. We're also launching, or we're starting development on, I should say, BitBox Cloud. So what's happening there is this is going to be, you're able to, Heroku meets AWS. You'll be able to spin up and down full nodes of different flavors of the blockchain, and there will be an ecosystem of add-ons built with BitBox. And then also we want to start work on BitBox Market. So as people start scaling up their BitBox skills and they can create more and more applications, we need a place to curate them and then create a marketplace around them, help people monetize them, etc. So I think that's what it looks like in the next 2 or 3 months. There's no question BitBox is accelerating. The adoption is really going crazy. We've been downloaded from 53 countries this week. I have nothing but love to everybody out there who's taken time to give us any attention. So I anticipate that the next 3 months are going to be more of the same. It's just going to continue to accelerate and grow and grow. Yeah, Frito, exactly, like a BitBox Play Store. Right now we're calling it BitBox Market. That's the branding. And I saw you say, what about Bitcoin Cash J? That's not my project, and I'm not primarily a Java developer. I've had people ask today on Twitter about Android bootstraps and obviously iOS. And I know that there are a ton of great Python developers out there who have been developing Bitcoin tools for years. a lot of BitBox under the hood is Bitcoin libs that I forked and ported over to Bitcoin Cash and aggregated in one place and created documentation for. So if anybody out there wants to port over libs from other languages, I will obviously gladly host them on Earth's domain or on our GitHub account for sure. I've been a web developer for a decade, so my whole workflow is very JavaScript centric, so that's where I started. No worries.
People really don't want to hear about it. Oh, it might work though. So here's a weird thing. So it's like everybody's like engineering group.
So that's one thing we built. We built query.cache. We did that about, like I said, over the course of one day. As soon as we figure out the core stuff, then you won't have to run BitBox proxy on your local host. That is a total hack, and I acknowledge that's not a production solution, obviously, but it definitely unblocked the most amount of people before this weekend, which was what my intention was. So another thing that we worked on is, so I had mentioned that we have, let me find the URL, 1 second. So I mentioned that we have a React scaffold that allows you to bootstrap a React application, a Bitcoin Cash application, in under a minute. It's incredibly useful. I myself use it, it seems like daily, but it's super helpful. So I wanted to put all the steps together to show what it would take to bootstrap a project with a BitBox project with React, to build it, to create a Heroku app. Heroku is like a cloud deployment platform. To deploy the app to Heroku, to buy a custom domain, like a .cache domain, and then to map that domain to your Heroku app, and then finally to add HTTPS. So basically, I just wanted people to have like these steps to go from nothing to an HTTPS BitBox app live on the web, just following these steps. So the steps for that would be here. I don't think it liked it for some reason. Let me post it to the Discord. I'm not sure. It didn't appear to like that URL. So those are the steps. If you want to start from absolute scratch, clone a scaffold an app, build it, deploy it to Heroku, and then give it its own URL with HTTPS, that's what you would want to do. And then the example that I did is called Hello BitBox. So this is literally, I'm not sure what's happening, but the YouTube stream won't let me post links, you guys. I'll post them in I see that, BitBox Cache.js. Let me check that out. So that link right there, hello bitbox.cache. So that is what I set up today. That is our React scaffold app. It's a little tiny basic BIP44 wallet that you can, create in under a minute. And those steps show you exactly how to get that deployed to a production environment with a URL. And so yes, checking that out real quick, bitcoincache.js. Let's scan this. The safe, simple, and powerful JavaScript library. I've not seen this. One of the things I think that one of the areas where I think BitBox really shines is that it's a fully featured app development framework created from day one for Bitcoin Cash. So, not only does it have JavaScript APIs, but it's even got a GUI. It's got a straight up app you can launch and click around and create addresses and validate mnemonics in 8 different languages, use custom derivation paths, the whole thing. So I think that BitBox really shines in being the complete, full solution. So another cool thing we did, which is a DevOps task, is Deep Thoughts showed me how to set up a Circle CI flow where basically anytime we deploy to BitBox CLI, it's going to run our test suite and then report back any errors. Obviously, that's a good place to hook in with some type of like a bot or something in your chat room. We had one on our Slack channel where anytime you deploy, it'll tell you if there's something wrong with it, if tests failed, if the deploy was successful, etc., etc. So that's something I have not done because I've been so busy on the flow. So that was great from the DevOps side of things. It says, are we going to be able to see your screen code on YouTube? You know, I didn't have that set up right now. This is my first time ever doing a live stream. I believe I can add that from this software. Let me make sure here. Give me 1 second to try and figure that out, guys. And yeah, I don't mean to make the party boring by having you guys stare at me the whole time. We can come in here.
Yeah, pop in here, man.
Ask questions of these guys. They're very wise. Do your thing. Want to say anything?
Where's the questions pop up?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, right on.
Ryan Mace, you lot are my heroes. You're my hero, Ryan. What else were you working on? The Docker thing?
That's
No?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my build agent VMs to upgrade properly.
Got it. And then the cores thing, which I don't know, it's not 100% for sure yet, but there's been a cores, there's been like a code change to potentially introduce cores to Bitcoin D, which also got some focus today from Jason, which was awesome. Thank you, Jason, for real. I don't know the fine details, and I don't want to overspeak about that, but I think it seems like it's going to be a big win for sure.
Yeah, I think he landed that.
Did he?
Should be there in the next release unless there's some problem.
That's awesome, because and then like as you
And that
know,
would be like an opt-in thing. So you say like a flag to enable it, or
right. So yeah, it seems like somebody correct me where my understanding of this is wrong. At the moment, Bitcoin D has no awareness of cores, so you have to have a server-side app which you enable cores and you post to, which then hands it off to Bitcoin D. This change enables where Bitcoin D is aware of cores, but you mentioned that it's probably still not the best solution to post directly to cores. You probably still want to have some type of auth layer or something in place.
Yeah, so this would just be kind of like if you want an internal service for your own stuff, and you're doing like a single page app, or you're doing development.
Got it. Yeah, it's a big win for sure. Cores issues are something that anytime you have a single page app and you have to post to your server, you deal with. So big win. It says, "Who are you people?" My name is Carlos Gabriel Cardona.
I'm Don.
Sorry, you guys should be able to see without the lag. Here you go, buddy.
Hi, I'm Shay.
Shay. And we got one more. Aaron. And Jason was here earlier, but he had to leave. He was very helpful, and he's awesome too. We're in the Bay Area. Pretty much everybody. What's up, Alfredo? Everybody lives in the Bay Area. So, yeah, feel free to hit some questions. I'm just gonna do whatever. Oh yeah, Cameron had asked me about code. I'm sorry. Let me check in on that. So he says, yeah, about showing code. Let me see how I can do that. I don't want to blow up my whole computer here. So is it possible just to show Atom? Anybody know? Anybody ever used this before? Video capture jack. Video capture device. I think you can. No, it's going to capture this. Earlier today, when I was cruising through this, it did seem like you could
Share your screen.
Yeah, and it even seemed like you could choose programs.
Cool.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that's what it said. But I don't see that now.
What's it called? OBS.
Yeah.
OBS.
So it says, what's everybody's background with Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin in general? Shay, you're up, buddy.
What?
What's your history with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash?
That's a long answer.
Okay. It's a long and sordid story, people. Deep thoughts.
I'll tell mine. I think it was like, I don't know, 2009 or 2010 that we were walking in the redwoods. One day you were like talking about Bitcoin and this new type of like digital money, and I was kind of like, holy shit, it's kind of crazy. I was working in software at the time. I had a bunch of kids and stuff, and became a dad. Kind of forgot about Bitcoin, kind of filed it away.
Life happened.
Okay, that's all right. Fast forward to like, I don't know, summer of 2017. I was talking to my dad, and I'm like, hey, the subject of Bitcoin came up. I'm like, hey, Dad, check this out. I'm going to send you $5 of Bitcoin, and it's the best thing ever. And I sent him the $5, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Something's wrong. Like, this is charging me $2 to send my dad $5. This isn't Bitcoin. I knew right immediately, like, someone's fucked up. And not only the $2 to send $5, but it was like, took like 2 hours, maybe 3. And I knew there was a problem. And then, and then pretty much like August 1st, like you were like, hey, there's this hard fork to like fix and like salvage the project.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's reinvigorated my excitement about the whole thing since then. So it's like,
yeah, awesome. And where do you see yourself in 3 months with it? 6 months, 1 year?
I mean, I'm working software, so I'm like, I do hope to work on Bitcoin Cash related projects at some point. Full time would be great.
Yeah, the Flood Dylan's Deep Thought is like amazing. Hiring for your team now. My history is I found out about Bitcoin from Hacker News in like 2011 or 12, probably 2011. And I got my first like 5 coins, if you can believe that, for free from Gavin's Faucet way, way, way back in the day. And I even remember my address started with a 17 because that was the number I used to wear on my soccer jersey when I was a kid. I still remember that. But then I like lost the hard drive, typical story. So I lost a grip of money basically. And it fell out of, same thing as Dylan. Life kind of happened. I fell on and off the radar. It would come into my awareness every couple of years. And then I started getting back into it a year or 2 ago, more investing kind of on the side because I was working a professional gig and just stashing my savings in crypto. And then when Bitcoin Cash happened, basically I knew there was going to be a fork before there was a while before. To me, it was clear that like this is an impasse. The only path forward is to fork. And I knew that there was going to be a creative explosion on one side, on one chain, because there were so many smart, creative people who had been pent up, all this creative pent-up energy for years. And as soon as the fork happened, it was going to go off. And as soon as I saw Bitcoin Cash, I knew it. And I went in first week. And sure enough, this is the chain where innovation is at light speed. And if you step out for even a week and you come back, it's different. I mean, last week, I don't think Memo BCH even existed. If it did, it's been, less than 10 days. So, stuff is happening so quickly. The whole industry looks different than 3 months ago. I predict it will look very different in 3 months as well. Anyone who does. Yes, Eric, 5 coins for free, and I lost them, so.
What was this?
He was saying, wow, 5 coins for free. That's what I got from Gavin's Faucet.
Oh.
And I lost it. I remember I tried to go back and find the hard drive years later. It was like, yeah, right. It says, hey, Rick. I'm sorry.
$100,000 at one point.
I know, right? That's when I
would have spent enough.
Yeah. It was like the guy at the restaurant. He's like, I had 10,000 BTC.
All right, so it says, did you already demo the apps? I showed the stuff we created, as I mentioned earlier. It's super casual today. It was more just about networking and doing this for the first time. But I'll sweep back over them again. if you want. So, what was the name of the dude who just asked that question? Brent Rinkner. I would suggest going to check out the Discord channel where the links are that I posted. For some reason, Google won't allow me to post them. But yeah, basically we created query.cache. You can type that in and check it out. It is a web GUI for interacting with the Bitcoin Cash JSON RPC. Currently it's going to fail unless you're running our BitBox proxy on your local machine. That's because I don't have cores enabled on that server, but we'll fix that ASAP. So that'll be up and working soon. And then another thing I did was put all the steps together to show how to create a React app from scratch, build it, deploy it to Heroku, create a custom domain, and give it SSL. And then Deep Thoughts showed me how to set up continuous integration for our command line tools. So whenever we deploy, it'll run all the tests, etc.
Oh, damn, you're on a different charger.
I got that USB-C, goodness.
You have your charger with you?
I do, it's in there. And then the final thing was we were able to get some focus and some energy moving forward on a cores update for actual Bitcoin D, not our BitBox, but like the actual ABC node, which is like the biggest win. I would have not seen that coming. So, and we got to network, more importantly than anything, with people. I got it, don't worry about it. More importantly, we got to network with awesome blockchain engineers in San Francisco and get a sense of what it would take to continue doing this and maybe share workspace, et cetera, et cetera. So in general, I think this was a win. And if anybody out there actually built something or wants to show something off or wants to ask questions or anything, let me know. And Cameron, back to your question. I don't want to totally space on you. I would love to show that. I didn't totally intend to do that this time. Maybe we could even start setting up actual hacking sessions. I know this was a hackathon. This is a bit more social. Maybe we can actually do coding sessions because I sit around and write code all day, every day. I'm more than happy to.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about screencasts and stuff to kind of show how to use the tools.
Yeah, good point. We did talk about screencasts and ways we can on-ramp people.
I mean, reading docs is cool, but like if you can just watch a 5-minute video, you're kind of...
All right, so... This guy says the amount of crypto I lost on Gox and Crypto is more than I have today. I feel you, man. I'm sure you're not the only person. Reading, he says, "LOL, reading docs is cool." Well, you know, RTFM, as they say.
I said reading docs is cool, but.
Okay. And then we got stand up. Reading docs is not cool. Got to go to bed. Thanks for guys. Keep it up. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate it, man. I see you around on Twitter all the time. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice. Peace, Timothy.
So.
What do you guys think of Craig?
I didn't hear what you said. What?
It says, "Will you do screen share?" I can see that is.
We're trying.
I'm not sure you put your private keys up on your.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of to do right now. I'm like, I don't think I prepared for that properly, guys. I don't want to do something dumb. Hey, Timothy, I see you in the Discord. Hey, man. And yeah, so I probably made it clear in the AMA yesterday, but potentially not everybody was there. I do work on BitBox full time, 100% of the time. So, and I have made the Discord channel of the Bitcoin Cash Fund our chat home. So we're around. If anybody wants to connect at all, just come in there and connect. We're there pretty much all the time, and we respond super, super fast. It says, what are the favorite Bitcoin Cash projects for other teams besides your own? That's a great question. Go for it, you guys. Long and sordid story.
Oh, I gotta kind of think on that.
I got this one. Oh, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this canned
You got a
reply.
favorite?
No. You know, I think the most exciting thing or innovative thing or the thing that probably got me thinking the most over the last couple of weeks is Memo. And I know it's incredibly contentious about writing to the chain, and I'm not even trying to step in the middle of that. But to me, I just thought it was super clever that you can prefix a op return data and that it has some type of semantic meaning that other people can then parse and make sense of. To me, that's a pretty big deal. I was shadow banned myself. I'm positive I was shadow banned on Twitter because I have the BitBox Earth business account, and I was literally searching for my CG Cardona, and I didn't show up. And then I was direct messaging other people, and they were like, "Man, I just got a push notification from you, but you're not in my messages. What's going on?" So I'm like pretty sure that I myself was in fact shadow banned, and I know other people are. I know Memo was the day it launched. There was a bunch of screenshots of people trying to search for Memo on Twitter, and it was like no results. So that alone, we all know there's a turnkey police state. We all know there's a coming wave of censorship, and it's just right there. Having decentralized networks that nobody can shut down is a big deal. And I think it gets lost in the argument over blockchain bloat, the power of having something like a decentralized network that nobody can shut down. So I remember, I live in San Francisco, I've been around for a while, I remember when Twitter was the hot shit. And everybody who went to a hackathon wrote a Twitter client. That was what you did by default. And that was because at the time Twitter was innovative and it was a nascent communication protocol that real time, nobody had ever seen that before. And then the Twitter guys rolled that back because they wanted to have an IPO, and they made homogenized client rules, and you can only use their fonts and their colors, etc. And that totally killed it. Memo is what Twitter should have been. Memo is a protocol, and to me that's a pretty big deal. And I think that, brace yourself, the prefixed up return protocols are coming for sure. That's not the last one. I'm sure of that. So that's what I think. I think probably the one that got me going in the last week was Memo. Like I said, if you were in the Bitcoin Cash space a week ago and you disappeared and showed up today, you would have to wrap your mind around Memo. That's how fast things are moving. And I think after the 15th, when op return goes from 80 bytes to 220 bytes, it's just going to accelerate. Any thoughts? Anybody want to just
You
give me
mentioned blockchain bloat, though. So,
right.
And then you were talking about
there's no such thing.
And that's because they're provably unspendable and can be pruned? Would that be correct, or is that oversimplification?
Well, I mean, there's that. As far as blockchain bloat, I think if miners are willing to take it and put it in a block, that's all that matters. It's none of my business. What miners mine.
So if somebody pays a fee, it's not spam kind of thing? Yeah, pretty much. And your favorite app in the space? Anything? Obviously, I like yours as well. I want to give a shout out to Ryan. I think Ryan's a champion, and he deserves so much respect. I have a lot of respect for Ryan, and I think yours is awesome. I think yours to Memo is WordPress to Twitter. I think they're complementary, and I don't think they compete. And I think yours is also pretty awesome. Also, I think Cointext with Vin and his team is also pretty awesome. I think being able to send people, Bitcoin Cash to their phone, don't have to turn them on to passwords, don't have to turn them on to technobabble, all that stuff. It's pretty powerful. I think that's a good onboarding. I know I've had good success. Everybody I've sent it to have been pretty turned on. So I think that one's also cool.
I think the new user onboarding could use some work there. Just because every person I've sent a text to, they have no idea what the fuck to do. And they're like, is somebody trying to hack me?
Do they not? I know when you send it to me, I'm like, somebody just send me Bitcoin.
Unless I'm there face to face.
Do they
to
not?
Explain it? Like, hey, I'm about to send you Bitcoin, and they get it, and I can tell them like, oh yeah, send a help command, and it'll show you what you can do. Just the new user onboarding needs a lot of work.
Oh yeah, this guy says don't forget Handcash and other NFC projects. Yeah, I've not used Handcash, but it definitely has a buzz. And independent of that particular implementation, I think NFC wallets are pretty good. It's interesting. That technology has been around for a while. I remember when I was working at Trulia in 2011 and 12, we were talking about NFC. So it's interesting to me that it's just not more mainstream for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the UI, UX, something, because it's pretty damn cool. You would think it would be everywhere, but for some reason it's not. But yeah, I think Handcash or something like that, sure. I mean, the biggest barrier to entry in the entire crypto space is the UX. Big hashes for addresses, QR codes. If you're not incredibly digitally native, there's a barrier to entry.
Wait, is Handcash that's released?
The testnet is released, as far as I understand. Somebody jump in and correct me. As far as I understand, you can get Handcash on testnet, but their app doesn't support mainnet yet, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
It's a mobile app?
I believe so, yeah. Alfredo says I tried it, so I could be wrong. I don't want to speak out of place. Last I read, I follow their dude on Twitter, and I think he had said we're getting ready to release, but it says no. Yeah. Anyway.
Shout out the Memo Enhancement Suite.
Oh yeah, Memo Enhancement Suite. I'm sorry, I haven't used it yet, but Andreas, is that his name, Andreas? I'm sorry. If you're watching this, I apologize if I got your name wrong. You're awesome. Your work is awesome. I saw the Memo Enhancement Suite in the Telegram chat that I'm in with you. It looks like the most interesting thing happening. So to roll back to my original thought, I remember years ago when I would go to hackathons and it would be like, let's build a Twitter client. And then that changed. I predict that soon it will be like that with Memo. It'll just be a real obvious and easy thing to hack on. There will be a lot of code examples. I think the memo.cache website is really poor. I'm sorry to say that. To the developer, he's amazing, but I don't think the website's that great. I think somebody could build a really sick iPhone app or something better than what exists. So I predict somebody will do that because there's so much utility there. So yeah, I think I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, I think that the next big thing is that people are going to be creating Memo. Oh yeah, back to that's what it was, the Memo Enhancement Suite. Sorry, my brain is like. So yeah, the Memo Enhancement Suite, in my opinion, is probably the best thing happening out so far with regards to Memo. If I understand correctly, you can do things like add images and add YouTube. Is that Corbin? Oh my God, what's up, Corbin? Dude, what's up? Trying to read the post. It says, how Steemit put so much data on their blockchain. I don't know anything about Steemit, I apologize. Presumably they are able to just write more data than Bitcoin Cash can. I don't know.
I don't think Steemit puts all of that stuff on blockchain. That can be confused.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Hey, Corbin. It says, we pressured Jason, Memo Dev, to open source the front end, so new style sheets and better UX are being worked on. I wasn't insulting him, just so you know. I don't want that to get to Jason. Jason, your work is really awesome, dude. I'm telling you. Memo has probably turned me on more than any other app in the last week or two, so I'm not insulting you. BCH, please.
I think he's responding to the guy's comment.
Got it. Didn't know if it was a project. There it is, Andreas Brecken. Yes, Andreas Brecken. If you see this, Andreas, please check out BitBox. I know your work is incredibly high quality, and I have a feeling like you would have some great thoughts and insight and contributions to BitBox. Please connect with me. Let's do it. Tipper is also one. Oh yeah, how could I forget Tipper? Of course, the Tipper bot. I love the Tipper bot. There was one even before it. There was a guy who launched on a Reddit Tipper bot before Tipper bot. I can't remember what it was called. I was using like crazy in the beginning of August, and then he killed the project when Tipper bot launched. I couldn't believe it. It was like he had some serious adoption. But yeah, Tipper bot. I mean, come on.
I would love those more if they weren't custodial. I'm just gonna say that. So like the fact that like they're cool, but like that person could become evil, and there's nothing anyone could do about it.
Yeah, I think that is a age-old discussion about whether or not you have your keys and whether or not you have your coins. And if you don't, you don't. In case you don't know, now you know. Chain tip is on chain. Yes, that is correct. Chain tip is also awesome. Also, I saw in the Bitcoin Cash Fund's Discord, I recently connected with the developer of GitCash, and I saw him tipping people on GitHub. So this looks also really cool. You can,
yeah, I just heard about that one.
Yeah, you can just jump into an issue thread or whatever on GitHub and tip people. That seems like really awesome. Like incredibly great use case there.
Yeah, that'll be a good way for open source projects to get.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, man, getting half-cent tips on Memo to me is a pretty big deal. Like, you know, if I get a half-cent tip from a few people, I get a couple pennies. That's nothing. But you imagine scaling that out to like celebrities or charities or whatever. You really just, you know, half a cent from tens of thousands of people adds up a lot and makes a difference to people. And half a cent is nothing to I predict there will be a charity. I'm sure somebody's already built it. You guys can correct me if it already exists. Surely there is going to be some type of site where you upload $5 to it, everybody does, and then each day they just send a half a penny to some different charity or something. It just seems like such an obvious play that would happen. I can't imagine that's not in the play. It probably already exists, but years ago on Kauai, I actually created a site called Gitcoin. That was like my very first time ever trying to create a Bitcoin project. I used the Coinbase APIs, and that was the idea that you could sign up and say, I'm trying to dig a well in Africa, and people could donate to you. But that was years and years ago.
Signed up.
Yeah. Support.
You know, that ended up backfiring when I tried, when the second wave, recently when I got really fired up about Bitcoin Cash, I tried to get all my friends to sign into their old Coinbase accounts, and they were all locked out from two-factor auth from like 4 years ago. None of them had the same numbers or could get into their accounts. You know what I mean? It was like, oh,
I still have mine.
I locked everybody, like so many people out. I'm like, damn, dude, I thought I was making your account more secure.
Forgot about it.
Finally got it.
Says WikiLeaks is a good example. Coinbase shut JA out.
Let's see if I can build a container. Yes. You have the pod tool set up.
I believe that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Corbin, but I believe what Corbin's saying there is WikiLeaks is a good example on Memo. Is that what you mean because of the censorship?
Do you put the Team City scripts in the...
I know that Julian Assange recently was like,
Or is it like the config?
I don't know if gloating is the correct word, but was thanking PayPal and Visa for blocking WikiLeaks from being able to get donations several years ago because they ended up raising like 50,000 Bitcoin in donations or something at the time, you know, several years ago when Bitcoin was cheaper. So I saw just recently being like, thanks PayPal and Visa.
Nothing happens without me.
I'm good now.
All right. Yeah, so I don't think there were that many contributions, so I'm going to probably share some of the Bitcoins that I set aside. Bitcoin Cash, obviously, when I say Bitcoin, let's be real clear here.
What's the difference?
Yeah, the BCH that I set aside for this, I'm probably going to give some to Eric in the chat room because he's been hanging out every day helping me. He deserves some. And then since there weren't really any contributions, I'm going to donate the rest to Eat BCH because they're awesome and they're doing big things. Eric, whoop whoop. Eric's a boss now. If you guys are trying to hire somebody, Eric's the dude. He's in the chat room from day one. And yeah, I didn't mention Eat BCH. I think they're a pretty awesome group. I think they've been, you know what I like more than anything about them is they've been so humble about not putting themselves in all their stuff they put on their stream. They've been all about actually showing people the work they're doing. I don't even really know the person who's behind it. I think I know his name, but I don't know, you know, he's not putting himself out there as like it's not about him. So
which one?
The EBCH.
Oh, yeah.
Like to me, you know, I've been following him on Twitter, and I was
he's
like,
come and done some AMAs.
Oh yeah.
There's like a Venezuela channel in the Discord.
There's also an EBCH one now. That's when I saw. That's how I found out his name. Like
Jose, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jose, sorry, I didn't want to not mention your name, but yeah, they're awesome. I think somebody should do something like that in San Francisco. I'd be willing to throw resources at it. I'm incredibly busy. I can't own that. I've got BitBox going on, but I'll throw Bitcoin Cash if somebody wants to go to the Civic Center BART station once a week and give out food. I'll throw down money on that. Connect with me and let's get that happening.
You gotta give it a name. Yeah, just whatever you want.
I went to Caracas one time, Corbin. So my father is from Bogota, Colombia, and then I have a bunch of family in South America. When I was like 13, my grandfather took me to Caracas, which at the time was like a very nice city, and they told us don't go to Bogota. And now from my friends who live in Colombia, they're like, go to Bogota, don't go to Caracas. So it's crazy how fast things have changed, I think, in 15 years down there. And then, yeah, somebody just asked, just getting here, what projects were worked on? So I'm going to repeat it again. Apologies if you guys have already heard it a couple times. Go check out the BitBox chat room on the Bitcoin Cash Fund's Discord, and you'll see the links. For some reason, I'm unable to post them to the Google room here, so I don't know what's up. But the first one we worked on is called query.cash, and basically that is a web GUI for interacting with the Bitcoin Cash JSON RPC. And right now you have to be running our proxy, BitBox proxy, on your local machine for it to actually work. You can load the GUI in the web browser, but you'll get errors if you try and post something to the chain. We're working on cores right now. That'll be live very soon, so that'll be a really good tool for developers. I myself have used a BTC web GUI to decode raw transactions a bunch while I've been doing BitBox. It'll be nice to shift over and actually use a tool which has been created for Bitcoin Cash. So that's number one. Number two, I created a full set of steps to create a BitBox React app, to build it, to deploy it to Heroku, to buy a custom domain, and then to set up SSL. And then I set up that example live at hello.bitbox.cash. Number three was Deep Thoughts and I added some continuous integration to the BitBox CLI framework. So whenever we push a new commit to Git, it's going to run this test suite and make sure nothing got broke. And that's definitely good DevOps stuff. And then finally,
I got a pull request up on the CLI repo.
For the new command.
Yeah.
We also refactored something. Right now there's BitBox new and there's BitBox scaffold. It seems like that's maybe a little clumsy, so we consolidated that into BitBox new, and then you can pass the scaffold flag. So that's a little bit better API. We were able to network with some ABC devs and get their focus on a cores issue, getting cores enabled, optionally enabled. Like if you currently in your Bitcoin conf file, if you say testnet equals 1 and then fire at Bitcoin D, it'll sync the testnet. So potentially something like cores equals 1 or whatever it ends up being in the Bitcoin conf will optionally turn on cores. That's going to be a big win for sure. And then just networking in general. Everybody in here is a developer in the San Francisco Bay Area who works professionally in the Bitcoin Cash space, and we were talking about what it would look like to share resources, share workspace, do more hackathons, etc. So, got it. Got it.
Ryan should be coming by any minute.
Awesome. Sounds like Ryan will be here any minute as well.
Maybe just let him do a screencast video.
I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to YouTube.
He's good at that, right?
I've heard he does videos that are worth watching. I should probably check him out. Says, that's awesome, man. Thanks. Come up to PDX sometime.
Shout out Portland.
Yeah, shout out Portland. So not that Portland is international, but I got my passport ordered this week. It'll be here between May 3rd and the 7th, and then I'm going to start traveling all around the world doing Bitcoin Cash meetups and on-ramping developers to BitBox. And I really want to set stuff up everywhere. So if you are an organizer of events in your location, reach out to me on the Bitcoin Cash Fund's Discord, and let's set something up. I'm 100% serious about that. Suggestions on wallet specs or similar GitHubs that would help handle change addresses, etc. Dubs down from the chat room. Does anyone have suggestions on wallet specs or similar GitHubs that would handle change addresses, etc.? So, if I understand what you're asking, BIP32 introduced HD wallets. BIP39 is mnemonics, and then BIP44 is like multi-currency, multi-account wallets. BitBox, of course, does all of those. So if you want to learn more, I would Google like BIP44 wiki. It's the BTC BIP, but it works. And then BitBox has an hdnode class, which can derive hardened or non-hardened children, and it can derive paths. And then you can also, there are like some utility methods in there for creating change addresses. So I think BitBox will do what you want. After the live stream, when I have a chance to send you some code examples and stuff, we can sync more. But basically, yeah, if what I understand what you're saying, bit 44 is the spec you're looking for. BitBox does all of that. You guys let me know if you want to jump in and weigh in on something. It says, okay, so to implement local wallets with BitBox, follow bit 54 or bit 44 specs. You know what? Let me show you real quick. I can give you a code example. So if I go to GitHub Big Earth, React. So if I say so I don't know if he's in the Dubs Down might not even be able to hear me. So anyway, Dubs Down says, so if I want to implement local wallets with BitBox, I follow the bit 44 spec. So technically, yes, you don't have to. All bit 44 is like a convention. So in the same way that you can have a path to a file, so you have foo, and then you go into the bar directory, and there's buzz.jpg, you can have a path to a key. So you have the master, and then you go to its 44th hardened child, and its 145th hardened child, and then its 0th hardened child, and then you're at the first change account. So bit 44 is basically just a convention for how you format those HT paths. But yeah, you would want to follow that, and I'm about to give you some code examples right now. And I have no idea if you can hear me, so everybody who's...
I think he can, because he's like kind of responding. He's responding to
Got
what
it.
you said.
Awesome. Okay, so so the example I just pasted you is a very simple bit 44 wallet. If you refresh it, it will generate a new mnemonic in one of the 8 different languages: English, Chinese, simplified, or traditional, Korean, Japanese, French, Spanish, or Italian. It's 256 bits, and then you can see this path here. It'll create 10 external change addresses, and then it does the raw hex of a transaction. So what I would recommend, awesome, good to hear it dubs down. So what I would recommend is, there's the example, and the code which runs it is this repo, and then you can see the actual example of how I create the mnemonic, create the root seed, create the master HD node, derive the child. The whole trip starts right here. And then if you want to play around with the BitBox GUI, which if you have a Mac, there's an installer. If you're on Linux or Windows, you can build it with npm. It's like 3 commands, no big deal. That is all of this, even a little bit more intensely. It does blocks and transactions and all that stuff. And so that might give you a sense of a place to start, I think. My intention is to make BitBox GUI a full bit 44 wallet. Even though it's a development tool and it doesn't do real transactions and stuff, I'm hoping that it mimics a full wallet all the way out. All right, thank you for pasting the links, Monica, you're awesome. It says, what do you guys think will happen after May 15th? Oh, I think there's only one person who could possibly answer that with any clarity.
I don't know. Everybody keeps saying 10K by May. I don't know.
6K by May.
10K by May, I think that's there it is. What do I think is going to happen after May 15th? I think people are going to start writing stuff to the chain like crazy. I think we're going to start seeing prominent members of the Bitcoin Cash community get upset about it. I think there's going to be a rift in the community over that. That's what I think.
Somebody asked about Windows. How do I download BitBox?
Are we going to have a permission to work a Bitcoin where you can't?
We call it pseudo coin, and yes, you have to run it with permissions.
The Luke Dash is the administrator.
It's 1 byte blocks, actually. We're going way small. Somebody asked about Windows.
No spam. Spam.
1 0 1 0 1 0.
What was the question about Windows? Just how to download it, basically? Oh, I got it. How to install in Windows 10. Hey, Morello, downloaded node, but okay, got it. Let me find you the steps. So if you go to our installation docs, there is a Windows section.
Does that still need some love, or is it ready in solid?
The so this
Windows support.
Yes, so basically here's how this works. There is a PR for a Windows installer that was created by Eric Lima, who hangs out, and I just haven't had time to mess around with it. I tried to get it to work, and there was some JavaScript error, and truthfully I just had so many things I wanted to nail before today that fell off the list. A lot of work's been done there. I genuinely think somebody could probably solve it in 5 or 10 minutes. I think it might even have just been that I'm on 62-bit and he's on 32-bit. I don't know enough about Windows to debug that. Right now, the solution is the steps I just pasted in the chat room. So you can download Node, you can clone the repo, you can install the dependencies, you can build it, and then you can launch it. That's not as challenging as it may sound. There's copy and paste steps there. And that works. I've done it on Windows, I've done it on Linux, so for sure it works. We're going to have a native installer for Windows. The pull request is out there. Let me get you the link to it. 1 second. Or no, I'm sorry, I know where it is.
Do you know triggers like the volume for
There I just pasted a link in our chat room. I forgot your name, I apologize. Morello, that is a work that Eric Lima has already done. I believe that it works because I checked out the blog post he used. I'm nearly positive it just maybe needs a little tiny tweak here or there. Maybe it needs to be set up for 32-bit or 64-bit. I don't know enough about Windows, but if you want to look into that, I'm glad to pay you like 20 bucks in Bitcoin Cash if you can help us make that work. That would be sweet. Oh, it says, okay, I'm going to use my Linux then. Oh, come on.
But even at like,
Come on, use your Linux anyway. It says, I have an XE, but it's only to the GUI. Yeah, I think the GUI, I don't know about creating an NPM deliverable as an XE on Windows. Again, it's not my platform. At the same time, I acknowledge that there's a lot of people on Windows, so I'm not trying to shoot it down. I would just need somebody who has more expertise in it than myself. I've been on Mac and Linux my whole career, so it's just where I'm most comfortable.
I think it would take them like 3 weeks to run the device migration.
And let's just give a shout out to the Bitcoin Cash Fund again. I can't give those guys enough love. They're really letting us leverage their network, and the network effect is one of the most valuable things around. So I am incredibly appreciative, and I put it out there to you, Monica. I put it out there to the rest of your team. Let me know what you guys need from BitBox. I want to help you guys out.
Are you on Roger's payroll?
Was that a question? I don't
Someone
know.
just asked for. No, I'm just playing.
What?
Just playing.
Yeah, Monica is great, for real. Awesome work. Awesome graphic work, I'm telling you. She made a graphic of our logo.
Oh, cool.
All right. Make Bitcoin Cash the best money in the world. That is the plan, for sure. More women on board. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear there's a shift in that regard in the entire industry. So, but for what it's worth, I think, you know, the quality of your work and your meritocracy matters more than your identity. But at the same time, I value diversity. I just think it's worth articulating that what really matters is the quality of somebody's work, in my opinion.
Well, money's for everybody.
It's true.
Ultimately.
Money's for everybody. All right.
Are you part of the US dollar community?
Am I part of the U.S. dollar community? I tried to leave that community last year, and
They won't let you leave.
yeah, I tried to leave, and then a few days ago they reminded me on tax day that I was not allowed to leave. So, all right, I'm just gonna let the camera roll. You guys hit me if you have any questions. And
Where's Ryan?
Where is Ryan? I was just thinking.
he's gonna walk in. I'm gonna shove a camera in the poor guy's face. Hey man, welcome to the party. You're live
From New York. I can hit his Slack, give him the building code.
Thanks for the cool stream. Thank you to the Bitcoin Cash Fund again. We didn't do this on our thing, so thanks to Paul. I was live streaming with him this morning. He said he was going to have to stay up till 4 a.m. to do this if we couldn't get somebody else to help him. So thank you, Monica, that Paul didn't have to wake up at 4 a.m. to rock this. I don't know what time zone he is, but presumably he's asleep right now. Yeah, Paul's awesome for sure. And I'm going to mispronounce his name right now. I apologize. Sayamosa? How do you pronounce his name? I'm sorry. I'm destroying it. I apologize. He's also very, very awesome. We chatted yesterday. Somehow correct me. They know what's up. And Corbin's awesome. Can we please just take a moment to recognize how awesome Corbin is? Yes, Georgie. Thank you, Corbin. I knew I was brutalizing it.
Oh shit, I didn't put that in the VR.
Yeah, Corbin's awesome. His team's awesome. What they do, obviously. Anybody? Silence, silence, silence. So I'll give you guys a tour around our little space we got here. Yeah, I don't even know where it is. So yeah, we found this cool office space. We basically rented it just for this party, but we intend to do this a lot more often. So I imagine we might see what we can do about getting a space in SF or something like that. I think there was just a big realization while we've been here that there are good blockchain engineers around here, and we could share and learn a lot from each other. And so I think that kind of came out of this as well. Very exciting. No alcohol. We did buy a couple 6-packs. I myself don't really drink. I think there might be a couple beers floating around, but yeah, there is some 6-packs here. We definitely had the snacks.
Yes.
Eric Lima, yeah, man, I hope this grows too. I mean, from my end, I am committed to working on BitBox 100% full time, and I'm going to start hosting these hackathons on the regular. I hope to be able to build a team, and I hope to attract like-minded people. There's definitely momentum behind this. There's no question. BitBox has been downloaded from 53 countries in just this very week. It's been downloaded over 15,000 times now. So obviously, there is a nascent Bitcoin Cash developer community out there. They want the tools which will allow them to express themselves creatively, and BitBox is that suite of tools. So I expect that this will, in fact, continue to grow. And so, yeah, as mentioned before, next things that are on the roadmap for BitBox are to continue to build towards the May 15th hackathon. So currently, BitBox transaction class is able to do pay-to-pub key hash transactions of 1-to-1, 1-to-many, many-to-many, and many-to-one. And then we're also able to do transactions of null data outputs. Basically, we're able to write to the blockchain with op return. I'm able to format inputs and outputs for pay-to-pub key, pay-to-multisig, and pay-to-script hash, but I've not yet got those transactions wired in yet. I've been able to create and send Satoshis to a multisig address, but I've not been able to spend from them yet, and I've generated addresses for pay-to-script hash, but I've not spent from them either. So there's work there. As soon as that gets done, and that's on the roadmap literally starting tomorrow, we'll be able to write custom scripts with the script class and the opcode. So I've already enabled the opcodes in BitBox CLI, and you can already write custom scripts and compile them into ASM So basically, the next step is preparing for the May 15th hackathon and showing people how to write custom scripts with the opcodes and starting to get a sense of what's possible there. There's certainly been a lot of hype. I hope that BitBox will be able to help people figure out, what's signal and what's noise. So Cosinus asks, what would be the main use case for BitBox? Merchants? I think more than merchants, Cosinus is developers. So, BitBox is all about empowering developers. So I think that the main use case is for somebody who just wants to create a Bitcoin Cash app, and they need some entropy, or they need to create a hash, or they need some mnemonics, or an hdnode, or an address, or a key pair, or signing a message, or anything at all, paper wallet generator, the whole thing. So BitBox is very general purpose, and I think it will really fall into the realm of developers. And obviously that bleeds over into merchants. Merchants have ideas, and then developers implement them. But primarily, it's a developer toolset. Eric Lena says, you think a killer app will start attracting more developers or something else? Are you talking about in the context of what will make BitBox grow, or are you talking about in the context of what would make Bitcoin Cash grow? Just sort of clear. And just so I can answer those, I think that the killer app for Bitcoin Cash is Cash. I think that you can build other abstractions on it, and we'll be able to do tokens, ICOs. I think people will write to the chain. I think there's a whole other bunch of stuff that's going to happen. But I think the killer app is just borderless, peer-to-peer Cash. And so I really think it's already happened. I just think there were a confluence of events which caused it to be postponed by a few years until Bitcoin Cash happened, basically. Thank you. Sorry, I was in the dark. And then with regards to BitBox, yeah, I think if somebody comes out and writes the next killer Memo BCH client with BitBox, obviously it's going to set us off. My impression, though, at this point is that BitBox has hit a certain type of tipping point. I believe that we're in the general awareness now of the Bitcoin Cash community. I know myself, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from a lot of smart people. So I think in a sense BitBox has tipped, and obviously it's very early. We can't even point to other than the few things I've built so far with it. So I'm not acting like it's full blown yet, but yeah, I think more people build stuff with it, it'll gain more attention, but I think already it's hit a certain level of a tipping point, and it's got a lot of momentum.
I can't just yeah.
Says, this is awesome, guys. What else is getting you excited with Bitcoin Cash to integrate with BitBox? There's so much happening in this space. I think that there is the potential to make BitBox extendable in some way where it's easier to add integration with other platforms. So, like Cointext launched, and I sense that there could be an entire platform that grows around that. Obviously, Memo is a platform. It's an entire protocol. And then Flowy as well. I think Tom is doing some good work there. And I think just making some API, I don't know what it is yet, but some general purpose part of BitBox that makes it a lot easier to be extendable and to connect with other tools, that's definitely on the roadmap. I think I'm really excited about the op return, obviously. I've been super into Memo, and I think I saw the value on day one. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I've been aware of people getting shadow banned, and I know the power of creating a network that nobody can shut down. So I think raising the op return is actually an exciting thing I'm looking forward to. And I just sense that like there's the entire industry has so much promise and so many smart people, and there's so much money, and there's just so much there, so many creative people, so many resources, but yet there's so many parts of the ecosystem that are immature or just not developed or not there. So I think just we're going to see a very professional grade industry come up over the next year. I expect people will just act more professional. I perceive the blockchain space as being a very hard space to work in. I've seen a lot of people like harden up when they come to work on the blockchain because, you know, they're smart people and they get a lot of shit slinged their way. So I expect that there's just going to be more professionalism. And not in a bad way. I mean, in a good way. I just generally hope, and I hope that BitBox helps that. You know, I hope that BitBox focuses on good engineering and open source code and culture and helps uplift the culture of the crypto space. So yeah, I expect standards bodies to emerge. You know, I expect protocols and implementation, stuff which has just not happened yet. I think we're going to see that happen real quick. And yeah, crypto kid, I agree. I mean, I'm telling you, I literally daily I'll force myself to stop and just look around and say, man, this is what it feels like to be part of the birth of an industry. Like, you know, as a software engineer, as somebody who lives in Silicon Valley, I'm always looking for the next big wave, and I'm always trying to be on top of the next innovation. And, you know, we hit it this time. Like, if you want to know what it's like to witness the birth of an industry, well, look around. This is what it's like. And let me know if you guys want to ask questions of those other guys. I can shoot the camera back over there. I just figured I would give them a second to get out of the spotlight. And yeah, so if you guys are interested, I'll put this out there to, I know Cameron asked twice, I'm 100% willing to start doing some type of live coding sessions. You know, we can obviously brainstorm on it. We don't have to commit to anything right now, but I'll put that out there. I'm more than happy to once or twice a week share my screen, do live code sessions, help debug people's problems. Like I said, I work on BitBox 110% of the time, and I'm very responsive. So if you're working at all with BitBox, hit me up. If you have questions, I'll gladly help you. And you guys tell me, what can BitBox do? What are we? What do you like? What can we do better? What are we missing? Yes, Eric. He's right. He nailed it, actually. Eric nailed it. Like, right now, if you want to build a app, you don't necessarily know how many Satoshis exist for a UTXO, or it can be challenging to get the balance of an address effectively. We need higher level API calls. We need web services. That feeds into BitBox Cloud, which is absolutely coming. We're starting on it now. Basically, we just need to like index the UTXO set and put it in a standard relational database, as I understand it. Somebody weigh in on this if I'm wrong. Effectively, we need to index it, make it a relational database, and then update it every block. And that will allow people to do queries which are optimized and more per a web service. So that's absolutely coming, no question. And then Corbin, ultra super nailed it. Team up with meetups and take over the world. It's called Triple Rocket. Yes, I got my passport in the flow. I'll get it between May 3rd and May 10th, and then I am absolutely starting the world tour with BitBox and Bitcoin Cash meetups. Reach out to me. Let's organize stuff. Let's make stuff happen. I 100% want to do this. The Bitcoin Cash Fund is happy to plug you into the Bitcoin Cash meetups to the world coming about BitBox. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, I said it yesterday on Twitter, and it really is true. The biggest community win we've had has been joining your guys' chat room. I mean, there's no question. You guys have got the golden network, and the network effect is, it's priceless. So I'm incredibly grateful that you guys let us leverage it. I know that means a lot to me personally, for sure. And if somebody was hanging out, I know there were several people hanging out in the BitBox asking questions. So a few technical questions, Dubs Down, and a couple other people. I will scroll back through all that. I was focused on a couple different things today, and I might not have been able to fully weigh in on things, but I'll gladly, when I'm done here, I'll scroll back through and see what I missed.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me know what you guys want to see. Here, I'll give you a sense of what our office looks like. I don't want you just to have to obviously stare at me the whole time. So yeah, we rented this space in SF. It's super nice. I'd love to set up some type of BitBox office and do this like on the regs, for real. It's in the financial district. My favorite part of the city. I've had several jobs on this block. I've been down here for years. And yeah, I mean, I will, so BitBox has I'll just start talking about some of the stuff BitBox has. If you guys have any questions, just hit me up. Let me know if you want to see something else, if you want to talk to one of those guys. Honestly, I'm just going to start demoing some stuff that BitBox can do, and you guys let me know what you need. So, BitBox really is a full feature framework for creating applications. It does everything you're going to need. So there's a command line utility. It can stub out apps for you. It can open a console. It can create paper wallets. It can run a proxy server on your local machine to get around Corsairs. It's also a JavaScript API. So you can use that from the command line in a tool like Node.js. You can use it from the browser in tools like Angular or React. And you can even use it in native applications as a web view or whatever the Android equivalent is. And there's also native app equivalents as well. You can use it. Electron, the BitBox GUI is built with Electron, which is like a Chromeless version of WebKit. So, I've had a couple people ask me, like, what is the pro to BitBox? Why wouldn't I just, use my own thing? Or why don't I just use Bitcoin or Bitcore or something? And, that's a completely valid question. I think the answer being, if you roll your own, That's completely legit. Everybody does it in some sense. It doesn't really scale. You're not going to find any answers in any Stack Overflow post, et cetera, and it's harder to get other people to feed into your code base. You could use something like Bitcore or Bitcoin. To me, Bitcoin Cash is an afterthought there. People have forked it and added support, and I don't know those developers personally, but I get a sense that Bitcoin Cash is an afterthought there. Or you can use something like BitBox. It was created from day one to empower Bitcoin Cash developers, and it's a full featured framework. When you roll your own, you're not going to get a GUI. When you roll your own, you're not going to get command line utility with built-in console. You can roll those things, but I did that for you, right? I've spent the last 3 months doing all that work for you. 80% of all apps are the same, no matter what framework you're in. So instead of you focusing on that 80%, let BitBox do that work for you, and then you focus on the 20% of your app which adds value and differentiates. And BitBox really is that tool set which allows you to build apps 10x faster. So when you first get BitBox, there are a couple different things. Like I said, it's a suite of components, so you can use them individually or as a whole. There's a couple different things when you first set it up. So you can install the command line tools via npm. And anybody who's not familiar with npm, that is the Node package manager. Node.js is a JavaScript engine created by Chrome or by Google, and it's based on the V8 engine, and it's got some bindings into C++, and you can basically run JavaScript on the server and command line. It's very, very cool. I'm a web developer, so my entire flow is ultra web-centric. So whenever you install BitBox, you can do it you can install the command line tool via npm. So npm space install BitBox CLI. And because it's a full framework, there's multiple ways you can install it. But if you do -- global, it installs it across your entire machine, and then you can use things like the command line utilities. So that's one thing you want to install is the command line utilities, and that's if you're creating apps and that kind of thing. If you're more just a user, we have a GUI, and you can download that with a Mac installer we have. If you're on Windows or Linux, you can build it from scratch with jQuery. I said jQuery because I was reading Eric's post. I apologize, not jQuery. You can build it from scratch with npm. The steps are all there. It does work. I've done it. So for sure the GUI works on Windows and Linux and Macintosh. And the idea behind the GUI is whenever you're creating an application and you start writing your code and you want to test it, right? So you've reached the point, you've got a little app and you're like, let's test this thing. The barrier to entry is as follows. I need to spin up a node, so already there's money involved. Even if it's just pennies, it's something. And I need to wait for the full node to sync, so there's some time as well. Usually it's a day or two, depending on the power of your machine. So, as a developer, that's a pretty big barrier to entry. You're asking me to throw down money and to wait a day. So, obviously that's not a great UX for a developer. So the idea behind the GUI is when you fire up that BitBox GUI, it's an express HTTP server, and it accepts incoming requests on localhost port 8332, which is the same port the Bitcoin D JSON RPC listens to. So you fire up your BitBox GUI, you write your code, you start testing it, and all the commands are hitting your local instance of a blockchain that exists only on your machine. And it only consists of blocks and transactions you do yourself, so it's super quick and responsive, and you can configure it however you like, and you can test your code in real time very quickly. And once you're confident that that API is the way you want it, you're confident your code works, you can just change your configuration. We have a bitbox.js file where you put configuration stuff, or if you have a lot of common configuration, you can put it in a .bitbox.rc file, which lives in your home directory. And then, depending on which environment you tell your code to point to, you can have your commands hit your local BitBox where it's super fast and responsive. You can have them hit the test net, or you can have them hit the main net. So that's sort of the idea behind the BitBox GUI, is that there should just be a local Bitcoin Cash blockchain which is incredibly fast and responsive that you use just for development, that you can spin up and down instantly. As soon as you close it and reopen it, it starts it again from scratch with the Genesis block. You can mine a block with a click of a button. You can tell it to auto-mine a block every time you send a transaction, stuff like that. So that's the idea behind the BitBox GUI. And then once you have that installed, you can go to the command line, and run something like BitBox new. And what that will do is that will create a empty template of a BitBox app. And we're still working on what exactly that template will look like. What's the right directory structure? Should we be opinionated or unopinionated? But for now, suffice to say that it creates some empty directories. It creates source and test. And then it also creates a bitbox.js file, which if you open, has configuration credentials to connect to your local running BitBox. And so that's really cool. If you are at the command line and you go into that directory and you run cd space console, I'm sorry, not cd space console, bitbox console. If anybody out there is a Rails developer, I was a Rails developer for a couple of years, and I lived in the Rails console every day. Anybody who's been on that framework knows that it is outrageously valuable. Basically, Ruby ships with a REPL built in, a console, IRB, and it has an API for extending it. So the guys at Rails extended it. And when you fire up a Rails console, it has your active record it has your active record models in there. It has the entire Rails API. It genuinely accelerates your workflow. Bitbox console is the equivalent of that for Bitcoin Cash. So when you fire a Bitbox console, you can pass in an environment flag, -- environment, production, or test, and it'll grab the credentials from your bitbox.js file, which point to that environment. And then it loads a custom Node.js console, similar to how Ruby has an IRB built in, which you can extend. Node.js has a REPL, which you can require. Node.js is incredibly modular. They follow the whole Unix philosophy. So you can require the REPL module, and then you can extend it. So I've added a Bitbox class on there, and it has the entire RPC for Bitcoin Cash, and it has the entire API for Bitbox built in. So if you need to experiment and you don't want to go setting everything up and you want to play with stuff right out of the box, you just install Bitbox CLI, Bitbox new to create a new app, Bitbox console to open your console, and you can do you can copy any single code sample from the website into that console and they'll work. I reviewed everything before the hackathon, so Bitbox console, super awesome. Inside your Bitbox.js file, you can put credentials for different environments. So in mine that I have right open before me, I have 6 different full Bitcoin Cash nodes, right? So I have a version 0.16 mainnet node, ABC. I have 2 version 0.17 ABC mainnet nodes, and I have 2 test 0.17 ABC nodes. And I have all of those credentials in a Bitbox.js file. And if I run bitbox console -- environment production or bitbox console -- environment test, the commands that are sent from the console are going to go to different full nodes. And that is outrageously useful. Like if you spend any time at all sending code to a full node, then you can really appreciate how awesome it is that you can open a console and it will automatically start sending commands to different nodes. It's incredibly empowering. So Bitbox console is great. I spend all day there. I would imagine it's one of the greatest sources of utility in the whole framework. There's also what we call Bitbox scaffolds. So to anybody who's actually been hanging out this long, you may have heard in the beginning that one of the things that Deep Thoughts and I accomplished today is to refactor the new and the scaffold API slightly, so it's going to be cleaned up whenever I release all this in the next, probably tomorrow. But right now, you can run Bitbox new, and it'll create a directory structure for you with an empty test directory and an empty source directory and a Bitbox.js file. If you run Bitbox scaffold -- framework React, it will scaffold a Bit44 wallet in a little tiny React app, and then you can just run npm install and start, and it will start it in your browser. If you make any changes to the code and save them, Bitbox will automatically recompile it and refresh the tab in your browser with WebSockets. So it's like an incredibly ultra streamlined development flow where you can bootstrap a Bit44 wallet in under a minute and be hacking on it. So Bitbox scaffolds are super awesome. We have one right now in AngularJS, technically Angular because it's 2x. We have React. We have Next.js, which is server-side rendered React API. It's pretty cool. And then we have Node.js. I think I mentioned all this already, so I apologize. I'm cycling back over things. And all of those are, fully functional Bit44 wallets. They create a mnemonic. They create a root seed. They create a master hdnode. They derive a bit44 path, master, 44 hardened, 145 hardened, 0 hardened, 0 for external, and then the first change address. It actually generates 10 of them. It creates a raw transaction of a one-to-one pay-to-pub key hash that works. So that's like everything you need to get started, and we have it in those 4 frameworks. I have bounties out there for $50 if anybody wants to create a scaffold on any framework. Sync with me, and I'll show you how it's done, and then I'll pay you the 50 in Bitcoin Cash whenever we sync it. I would love to have an Android one. I would love to have an iOS one. It would be great to have as many Vue.js, I believe Mort was talking about the other day. Yeah, as many frameworks as possible. We want to allow people to bootstrap a Bitcoin Cash app in 1 minute in as many frameworks as possible. Yes, Tal Jones, Bitcoin Cash is king. So another thing which BitBox has built in, which I use like on the Ultra daily, I love this part of it, is the BitBox GUI has a built-in conversion tool. So you can actually see this in the screenshot on the website if you go there, and it's just an input field. You can paste in a public address in legacy or cache adder. You can paste in a wallet, private key and wallet import format, a with. You can paste in an extended public key, and you can paste in an extended private key, and it'll do conversion between all of them, and it'll generate a QR code. And depending on which one you paste in, you'll get all of them or some subset. So to make sense of what that statement means, if you plug in a xpriv, so if you take your extended private key, which you can easily create with BitBox, and I will gladly show anybody how to do that, paste it in that chat box, and it's going to generate a legacy address in base 58. It's going to generate a cache adder address. It's going to generate a wallet import format private key. It's going to generate an extended public key, and it's going to show you your xpriv, and it's going to create a QR code for all of them. If you do your xpub, it'll give you cache adder and base 58 as well as your xpub. If you do with, I believe it only gives you cache adder, base 58, and with. And if you do either legacy or cache adder, it just gives you those two. But with regards to conversion, you know, I send a lot of transactions every day. Trezor doesn't yet support cache adder. I use my Bitcoin.com wallet religiously. So what I do is I take base 58 legacy encoded addresses, I paste them into the conversion tool. It shows me the cache adder, or vice versa, as well as a QR code. I'm able to scan it with my Bitcoin.com iOS wallet, and I'm able to use it. It's incredibly, incredibly useful. If you do at all address conversion between cache adder or base 58, if you want to know what the cache adder or base 58 address is for a with, if you got an xpriv and you want to know what the legacy is, any of that, that's your tool. I use it every single day. It's outrageously useful. Another tool that we have, which is outrageously useful, and the only other one I know of, actually I don't know of a Bitcoin Cash tool that does this. Presumably there is one, but I don't know one, is the sign and verify. So right now, you know, if you have a Trezor, you can plug in your Trezor and you can copy over your address and you can sign a message and then you can verify it. Well, Trezor doesn't support base 58 yet. I take that back. Trezor doesn't support cache adder yet. So on the BitBox GUI, there is a sign and verify tab where you can paste in an address, a message, and it will create a digest, a signature, and then you can copy and paste that over, or somebody else's, and you can sign and verify. So for example, if you go to the blog post I wrote about this event tonight, you can see that I signed a message from the address that I set aside the funds for to show that, yeah, these funds are for this hackathon. I, Gabriel Cardona, do in fact control the private keys here. You can verify that message if you choose to by copying and pasting it into your BitBox GUI and hitting verify. You'll get a nice little green valid message or verified at the bottom. And then you can do this from anybody else. So if you're cruising the web and somebody's like, I promise you, man, I own this address. Look, I'll sign this message for you. You can verify that in your BitBox GUI. You can also do it from the JavaScript API. So if you want to write an app, if you would like your app to verify message or sign messages, you don't have to use the GUI. BitBox does that as well. Causing us It says, I think address balances, address monitoring should be a priority if they aren't already. These are like the main two features at least I'd need if I were to integrate this in my projects. Yeah, I agree. BitBox Cloud is on my priority list. I've got three sort of things moving in unison. I've got BitBox, the development framework. I've got BitBox Cloud, which is Heroku meets AWS, where we have you're able to spin up and down full Bitcoin Cash nodes in any flavor, ABC, BU, XT, Flowy, whatever your trip is. There's an entire ecosystem of add-ons which are built with BitBox. And then we're also building BitBox Market, which is going to be a marketplace, like an app store of apps built with BitBox. But yeah, no question about it. I build apps with BitBox every day. Not having a cloud service that I can call to get balances is inconvenient. It's definitely on the top of my list. So again, just sort of cycling through these things. Anybody feel free to jump in with a question, comment at any time. You can, of course, configure your BitBox GUI. You can change the number of addresses of accounts that it generates. So I don't know who's actually played around with the GUI at all, but when you first fire it up, it generates a mnemonic for you based on 250, or actually it starts with 128 bits of entropy. It does a 12-word mnemonic. And you can create mnemonics of 12, 15, 18, 21, and 24 words with BitBox, starting from 128 bits of entropy all the way up to 256 bits. And you can do them in 8 different languages: English, Chinese simplified, Chinese traditional, Korean, Japanese, Spanish, Italian, and French. And then, so whenever you first fire up the GUI, we automatically generate a 120-bit mnemonic in English for you, and then generate 10 BIP44 accounts, and then their first external change address. And we set the first account as your Coinbase account, so that whenever you click the mine block button, that account gets 12.5 Bitcoin. And you can see in the GUI, every time you click mine a block, it will increment the balance of that account by 12.5 Bitcoin Cash, and it will increment the HD path by 1 because it's cycling through those change addresses, and it will change the cache adder, legacy, with xpub, xprid. So basically it's cycling through HD nodes, external change addresses. And you can configure how many accounts it generates. It does 10 out of the box. You can change how much entropy it uses from 128 bytes all the way up to 256 to change the number of words in your mnemonic. You can, of course, change the language. You can use your own mnemonic. So one of the cool things about BitBox CLI and BitBox GUI is that you can validate mnemonics. So if you pass in a mnemonic and it's invalid, it won't allow you to try and create a seed from it. And it will tell you if your mnemonic is valid. And it will also, if you give it a word list, it will check for the nearest word. So if you give it the English word list and then you type in whatever the word is, FO or something, it'll say, FO is not in your word list. Did you mean foobar? Or something like that. So that's incredibly valuable. You can create your own mnemonics and validate them. You can create your own HD path. So out of the box, we use BIP44 HD paths because that's the industry standard, so that wallets can interoperate. You can drop a mnemonic from your Trezor into your BitBox and you're going to get the same keys. You can drop a Trezor, you can drop a mnemonic from your BitBox into your Trezor and you're going to see the same keys because we follow that same derivation path. But if for some reason that's not your trip, you can change the HD path, and that's pretty awesome. So the flow goes entropy, mnemonic, root seed, master node, child nodes. Whenever you create, so you have entropy and mnemonic, whenever you create that root seed, you can also use a password. And the combination of the mnemonic, the entropy, and the password, the potential space is like, I believe it's 2 to the 513. It's outrageous. I could be off by an order of magnitude or more, but if I remember correctly, there's like 10 to the 80 atoms in the universe, and you can create 10 to the 77 potential nodes in an HD wallet or something like that. We're like 3 orders of magnitude less than every atom in the universe having a Bitcoin Cash address, basically. And then, of course, you can display everything in cache adder, everything in legacy. You can display everything on the test net or the mainnet. Everything works in both of those. Cameron Lee, any Python port anytime soon? You know, I've addressed this a couple times. So I have been basically a web developer for the past decade, primarily front end, but full stack as well. So I'm super JavaScript centric. I was actually part of the HTML5 working group during college. Google paid for me to be a member of that, and my name is in the specification as an acknowledged contributor. I'm still pretty jazzed about that. But I'm a web developer, so I created this in the tools I know. I do acknowledge that there are some outrageously smart Python developers who have done a lot of great work on BTC, and I imagine there are a ton of great libraries out there. One of the biggest bodies of work in BitBox has been forking BTC JS libs, porting them to Bitcoin Cash, and documenting them. I give a lot of credit to the developers whose work I'm building on. So if you know anybody who is a Python developer and they want to port over some of those BTC tools to Bitcoin Cash, I will gladly host them on our Earth repo or our GitHub repo. Is Ryan here? Hey, Ryan. Let me go say hi real quick. Hey. Thanks for coming. Yes. Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I'm doing a live stream, so let me check in with them. If you want to join it, you're more than welcome to, but I don't want to shove a camera in your face the second you get here.
You let me know what to do.
Yeah.
How's it going? I was sorry I'm late. I was like, I meant to be earlier. I was like, this is that's good.
That sounds good. I don't do that enough, but when I do it,
Yeah. I wish I could.
Okay. Yeah, that was Charles. Yes, but I don't want to, blow him up. So yeah. I mean, that was pretty much it. I think we're probably going to hang out a little bit. You guys can ask me any questions, like I've said a couple times, I'm working on this 110% of my time. I'm in the chat room all the time. If anybody wants to sync, reach out. Let's work on some stuff.
What did you do to achieve like attention and
Haha. Thank you, Seatic BCH. You're awesome, man. I see you around. He did not, Eric. We reached out to him. He's in the circle of people, he's in the Bitcoin Cash tribe in San Francisco, so Deep Thoughts actually was able to reach out to him, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And yeah, I just think a big takeaway for me personally from this event is there's a lot of smart blockchain engineers in the Bay Area, and I think there is a big win that could happen by networking more, doing this more often, sharing resources, sharing tooling, potentially sharing as much as possible. So I see that becoming something that is happening. Corbin, love that this is all happening on Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin is fun again. It is. I agree, absolutely. I was saying earlier that I personally came to the personal conclusion that there was going to be a fork a long time before other people were willing to admit it. And it was just so clear to me that as soon as it happened, there was going to be a creative explosion. There's just too many smart, creative people in the blockchain, in the Bitcoin space, that were just at a stop. We were at a stop. And so as soon as it happened, sure enough, the creative explosion began. And now we're just seeing innovation at light speed. It's amazing. I'll say it again. This is what it looks like to witness the birth of an industry. So look around. This is what it's like. Yeah. I'm not sure what happened there. And yeah, I think just like with regards to what we're witnessing, I, I think this is the opportunity of a lifetime. You got to act on the opportunity of a lifetime during the lifetime of the opportunity. Pardon the cliche, but it's true. And to me, if you think you missed out on Bitcoin, and I don't just mean from an investment perspective, I just mean like if you feel like you didn't understand the tech, or you were too young, or you were immature, or whatever, it all happened too quick, you really are getting a second chance with Bitcoin Cash. And Bitcoin Cash is the one that's going to fulfill Satoshi's vision. And we all got on board originally for that vision. That's not an appeal to authority, that's an appeal to the vision, which many of us got on board with in the beginning. So
publishers that want to, basically people that don't want to put their content on platforms.
So yeah, sorry, I got cut off. I was trying to read. I apologize. So yeah, my point being that this is the opportunity of a lifetime. If you wanted to be in on Bitcoin in any way, if you want to be a developer, an entrepreneur, a hustler, whatever, this is it. It's all happening again. This is the time to network and to build your team and to make things happen. Yes, I agree, Crypto Kid. The Bitcoin Cash community is thriving. Bright future ahead. I've been a software engineer for a decade now. I've been living in San Francisco most of that time. I've seen a few platforms come from scratch. I was there in the beginning of Node.js and things that have come since then. I was there in the beginning of Bitcoin. I just didn't appreciate it, obviously. There's no question in my mind this is the most impassioned and empowered group of people of any tribe I've been a part of until now. Like, people want Bitcoin Cash, and they want it in a big way. Facts Video, so excited you're making this with the JS stack as a web dev myself. Yep. Yeah, me too. I used to use I used to be a Ruby developer, and then I've always been a web developer, but I was doing full stack Ruby stuff, and I started using the term, the looming inevitability of JavaScript. It's just everywhere. So it's sort of like, it's one of those things that's unavoidable. And I use that same term with Bitcoin Cash. There is a looming inevitability. And if you have a sense for those things, you can just sense it. It's everywhere. You can't turn without seeing either the need or the solution that is articulated in Bitcoin Cash.
So we have, and then the other news is that Clemens resigned. Clemens was the CTO of our company. He resigned 2 weeks ago. So we're hiring people because we have to replace our boss.
And yeah, it's 7:53, so I imagine we're going to be wrapping it up soon. Again, thank you so much to Monica. Thank you so much to the Bitcoin Cash Fund. Let me know how BitBox can help you guys in any way. I'm 100% open to it. Thank you to everybody who showed up. You guys are awesome. Thank you for everything you do. Really, there's too many names to even read through right now. You guys rule. I'm so stoked. Like, from my perspective, for what it's worth, like, I am truly honored to even have the attention of any of you guys. I know you're all incredibly dynamic and creative people, and I'm genuinely stoked and honored that people give me their focus, give BitBox their focus, and I'm dedicated to doing what it takes to push the Bitcoin Cash movement forward with BitBox.
I haven't, so I'm curious to talk to you. You did say next week, and then the conversation we had about that, he said it on an airplane. He's super happy at yours.
Okay, so I think that's it. Let me check in with Monica and see what she says.
So I'll tell you what
She can probably hear me.
You should ask Nick and stuff, just because
Just checking.
my impression is I don't fully understand why he resigned, to be honest.
So yeah, I think that's it.
I don't know.
Okay, cool.
He should probably not try to speak to him, but he just said.
All right, everybody. I do believe that is the end. Thank you guys so much, really. Like, from right here, I got the love, and I feel the love. So let's move this forward. I expect really big things to start to start happening. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me with what you guys need. All right, you guys. Much love. Talk to you soon. Cheers.